everyone, and welcome to this week's watercolor painting with the Martinsburg-Berkeley County Library System. This month we are going to be doing this cat and forest scene, and we're going to be doing it. We're going to be using watercolors like normal, so you'll need a paintbrush, a pencil to sketch things out, and we're going to be using black and blue. Now to start off with, I'm going to move this one off to one side, and you're going to use your pencil. And we're going to create the silhouette shape of the cat. So we're going to start off with just a circle at the top. You can make your circle as big or small as you want to be based on how much of the picture you want to take up. So we've got the circle at the top, and then you're going to make just an oval shape starting right at the bottom of the circle. You'll make just an oval shape down. And you'll start on the opposite side and just make another kind of oval teardrop shape and make it a little flat on the bottom. This is what it will look like. Once you've got those two done, then the next thing we're going to do is add in some extra shapes to make it look a little more realistic. So you're just going to start a little bit above where you did the teardrop shape for the body, and you're going to add in a second curve for the shoulders. You're going to do the same thing on both sides, and then you're just going to make sure the bottom is a little flat. So you can see how I changed up the shape some. That's what yours should look like to give it a more realistic cat shape. Once you have those done, we're going to put in our ears. So you're going to make sure you start at the same spot on each side. And we're going to start, and we're just going to do one curved and then another curved, and just make a curved triangle. I think I'm going to do the same thing on each side. I'm going to do a curved and then curve back down and make a triangle. And I'm going to go ahead and redo this ear on this side because I think it's a little too far off to one side. I'm going to start a little bit farther straight up on top of the head. And now you can see the ears. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the tail. So we're just going to start about halfway up on the body, and we're just going to do a little bit of a curve off. And you can make your tail curve as much or as little as you want. You can see where I've got a curved portion of the tail. And then we're going to erase all of the extra lines. So we'll erase the extra lines on the body, and then you're also going to erase the bottom circle of the head. And we're going to erase the lines where the ears are. You're not going to erase the whole ears, just the lines separating the ears from the rest of the body and separating the head from the rest of the body. And then we're going to erase the line separating the tail from the rest of the body. And then we're going to erase some at the bottom. And at this point you can look at it and decide if you want to do any extra fix-ups. I'm going to thicken my tail a little bit. So I'll thicken that there and then erase that first line. Maybe make my shoulders a little smaller. Get them more exact. so you can see where I've erased the lines on here. And again, just remember that you want to erase any of the lines that are separating out the different spots. So at the ears, right here, here, and here at the head, and then the extra lines that were here, here, and then again at the tail. Alright, and once we have those all ready, erased and ready to go, we'll just go through and kind of lighten up all of the rest of our lines, some so they won't show through the watercolor. So you'll just go through and kind of lightly, not completely erase, but just lightly rub over and erase what you have currently, leaving a shadow of the pencil still on the paper. So you definitely want to be able to see your pencil marks, but you want them to be very faint. Like always with watercolor, you want to try and make sure your pencil marks don't show through the paint itself. And once you have that done, we're going to start with the paint. So one of the things we're going to remember is we're going to have our moon kind of right here, right in the center of the cat. And so we want to make sure that we keep this white. So you want to just keep a white circle in your brain right here. And then we're going to come through, we're going to get our paintbrush, we'll mix it with some water. And then we'll do our normal pull down technique in order to get the pigment ready to use. So we'll just pull down and away, dip our brush back in the water, and then keep doing that until we get enough paint ready. And you want to get a good bit because we're going to be working with this all the way down and trying to get a nice single wash. We're going to work with a good bit. You want this to be very loose to get a very just nice even wash. So we use plenty of water, plenty of paint. Get that all ready to go. Then we're going to add in some of the black. This is going to be one of the darkest sections up at the ears and down again at the bottom are going to be the two darkest sections. So we're going to start off, and now that we've got our paint dark with blue and a mix of black, we're going to start at the ears, and you can just start at one point and paint down, and your paint should look nice and free flowing and liquid like mine does. You'll just follow the shape of your ear and then go back in, and I'm going to darken it up a little bit, so we'll get that ready and darken up the top portion because we want these top areas to be nice and dark, and then we'll fill in the middle and then we'll connect it to the head here. We'll get that ready, and then we'll do the other ear. So we'll get that going before we do the outer edge. And then connect it in the middle. We're going to dip our paintbrush in water and just refresh the edge of this before we keep going. Come back in and darken up this ear a little bit at the top. And darken this ear on the side, and we're going for a real nice even wash. So at this point now, I'm going to refresh the bottom section down here with water. And then I'm going to just start mixing in more water as we go down. We're going to use less paint and more water until we get close to the moon, at which point we'll just use water, because we want to create a look that we're slowly getting brighter and brighter as we get closer to the light source. So we're just going to keep going. Then every other paint, we dip our brush in the water, dip it back in the paint, and we're just going to keep doing that every single time. Brush in the water, dip it back in the paint. Brush in the water, dip back in the paint. And then once we get to about here, we're going to stop dipping in the paint. We're just going to dip it in the water when we join the body. And then we're going to keep moving down. And then I'm going to dip it back in the water, and I'm going to clean off my brush completely. So make sure you get all the blue paint off of the brush, because at this point we want it to be very, very light. So now with just water, I'm going to continue to add and pull the paint down so that we continue to get it much lighter. So you can see how much of a difference that's making and how it's just getting much brighter and lighter. I'll lift this up so you can see. How it's getting darker at the top, slowly getting lighter. So I'm going to keep just using water. So keep just using water. And now remember how you have that circle shape in the middle. So now we're going to outline that circle shape with water. So it's very important that you don't paint over that. We're just going to do the circle shape. And then we're going to keep going along the edges. And now at this point, we're going to dip our brush back in water and making sure my circle is in the right spot. Make sure it's in the middle. And then we're going to start adding some paint again. So dip your brush in the water, and then dip your brush in the paint, and then come along the edge again. And dip your brush in the water. It's starting to catch a little bit right there. And then I'm going to work this in a little bit more. So I'm just going to mix and bring this down. We get a nice smooth and even edge. Just using water, I'm going to mix that in together. Okay. And we're going to go back in. And just get that nice, smooth, even edge in there. At this point, we're going to need to use, make sure your edges are always wet. So I just wetted that some with some more paint. And then we're going to need to mix up a little bit more paint on our palette. So we'll get more blue, more black. And we're going to just paint this on there. And we're going to stop dipping it in the water at this point so that we can get it dark again. Paint, dip it in here and paint it. Edge. And then I'm going to use a little bit of water, dip my brush in the water to fix this edge right here. And then we're going to dip our brush in the water a little bit and just smooth out that edge so it's not a strong edge, but that's a contrast. I'm going to take my brush, get it completely clean, and work on smoothing out that contrast a little bit more so there isn't a hard edge. And get up here. Right. Make sure this edge is fresh. And then we're going to get it very dark at this point because we're down at the bottom, so we're going to make sure it's very dark. So we're not dipping it in the water every other time, we're just dipping it in the paint. And we're just going to follow the silhouette of the cat all the way down. Get some more paint on my brush here. Mixing in some of the black. going to do this at the top of the tail. So we're going to start back up at the top of the tail because that's going to be a dark part again. And then add water. And clean your brush off completely. And just do water to mix it in those edges. We'll do a little water right here too. Okay. So now we've got the background shape. So you can see starting at the ears, it's darker, and then we're slowly getting lighter and lighter until we hit the middle. And then we get darker and darker again all the way at the bottom and with the tail. So now we've got our background. And after this, we're gonna add in some trees. So you're gonna look at it and you wanna make sure that it's nice and dry where you're working from so that the water doesn't bleed into all the different places. So for the trees, we're gonna use more black than we use blue. So you're gonna get your brush wet and get ready, and you're gonna pull down the blue and get a good bit pulled down. Dip it in your water again, just keep working at it. Because we want these to be very dark, these trees to be very dark. Then once we get enough blue, we're going to use black and just make them very, really dark navy blue. And then you're going to come in and we're going to paint these side trees. So we're just going to start at the bottom. We're going to start right about here on this side of the tree, on the side of the cat and the side of the tree. And you're just going to paint up. You're just going to paint all along the edge here. And then we're going to add in our tree. So to add in the tree branches, once you add in the tree branches, you'll press down harder at the bottom and slowly lift up as you get to the top. So that's how we do a tapering tree branch. So slowly lift up and just kind of drag your brush across there. Then we'll do another one right here, and I'm just going to press down. And then slowly lift up and just kind of allow the brush to lift up and down as it moves across the paper to get a really realistic look. And then we're going to add some ones at the top too, and you're just going to barely put your brush down. Just the very, very tip, and just slow, kind of let it drag across in different shapes. Like that. So again, you press down hard at the bottom. And then you just move it, like kind of shapes form a little back and forth. And then lift up as you get to the top. Press down, lift up. And there you've got your tree shapes. And then you've got your branches, so now we're going to go in and fill in some more of the tree. So we'll get some more paint. And we want the farthest edge to be the darkest edge. So we'll start there and darken up some of these branches on the right here. And then come in and we're going to make the tree trunk a little thicker. So you can see we thicken up our tree trunk along the bottom there. And then now we're going to do the tree on the other side, and at this point you might need to add more paint. I'm going to add a little bit more black. my brush in the water, get more of the blue, and then mix in more of the black. And then we're just going to do something very similar, where we start here. We're just going to work our way up. Get a little bit more water if your brush feels like it's really dry as it's going over the paint on the paper. Okay, one trunk. This one's just going to have a little bit more of multiple trunks going on, so. So press down, then lift up slowly more and more as you get higher. Harder, and then lift up, move it in different shapes. And lift up and kind of make curves. We'll add some smaller branches. Just very, very lightly with just the tip of your brush. And you can add in as many branches as you want. You can add in more, you can add in less, depending on what you think. Keep in mind that an uneven number can look good, and keep in mind how to paint the branches as you're going along. Then we're going to paint another tree here in the background. This one's much smaller. Just going to kind of have one, two, just a few branches. And we're going to get some more paint and do the other side of this tree. So you can see what I've got right now with the tree branches and how many I have and what I'm doing. I'm going to add more to the tail. Get darker. Now I'm just going to go over the back portion of this tree some. And then add some at the bottom. So you can see where we've got the tops of the trees, we've got the branches and they're curving around, then at the bottom it's going to be darkest and we have the trees on the sides. So you can see the dark in the bottom. At this point you can fix anything up that you would like to do, and I'm going to add a couple of just little spots around it. So I'm going to take my brush and just kind of tap the edge some. I hit the cat, but it's nothing that a little water can't fix as I'm going in. Okay, so then you can see that I've got kind of little fun dots and splatters on it. And now we've got our cat. We've got it from the bottom, from the top. You can see we've got our trees on the sides, our moon in the middle, and this is our Halloween October fun cat silhouette. Hope you've enjoyed painting with us. Hope you enjoyed trying it out. Stay tuned for next month and we'll do another one. And if you have any questions, you can let us know. Enjoy, and we hope you discover the fun of doing watercolor paintings on your own.